This 3D visualization brings the quest for the optimal decision boundary to life by placing multiple intersecting hyperplanes inside a structured wireframe cube to represent the mathematical core of support vector machines, SVM. In the next few minutes, we'll dive deep into the mechanics of support vector machines to uncover how they find order in the most complex datasets. So get ready for a comprehensive masterclass. It sounds complex, but it is simply the geometry of separation. But how do we use this for prediction? Watch what happens when a new, unknown data point enters the scene. By simply checking which side of the hyperplane the point falls on, the model instantly classifies it. In this case, it is a positive. This simple decision rule, classifying based on the side of the line, is the foundation that every support vector machine is built upon. Imagine your data plotted on a coordinate system. We have two distinct classes here, each occupying its own region in space. This line is our hyperplane. In a two-dimensional world, a hyperplane is just a line that partitions the space into two halves, or half-spaces. Mathematically, this boundary is defined by a linear equation. Anything on one side is positive, anything on the other is negative. In technical terms, if you are in a p-dimensional space, a hyperplane is a flat affine subspace with p-1 dimensions. So in 2D it is a line, and in 3D it is a plane. If many lines can separate our classes, how do we choose the best one? The answer lies in the maximal margin classifier. They are the anchors of the model because they are the only points actually touching the margin. Here is the most critical insight. Most of the data points actually do not matter. Watch as we move a non-support vector. The boundary stays perfectly still. The model is completely robust to these points. However, if we move a support vector even slightly, the entire boundary must shift to maintain that maximal gap. This is why they are called support vectors. They are the only points supporting the position of the hyperplane. By maximizing this gap, we find the most stable separation possible. We start with our data clusters and our decision boundary. But now, watch as we expand the space around that line. These dashed lines represent the margins. The margin is the smallest distance between our training observations and the separating hyperplane. Our goal is to find the hyperplane that makes this margin as large as possible. This provides a buffer that helps the model generalize to new, unseen data. Notice these specific points highlighted in gold. These are the support vectors. Often, classes overlap, making it impossible to find a hyperplane that separates them perfectly. However, if epsilon is greater than 1, the point has crossed the hyperplane entirely. This is a misclassification. The model acknowledges the error but allows it, rather than forcing a dangerously thin margin. This creates a fundamental trade-off. We want to maximize the width of the margin while simultaneously minimizing the total amount of slack. By tolerating these small violations, we build a support vector classifier that is more robust, stable, and ready for real-world data. This is where we introduce the soft margin. Instead of a rigid boundary, we allow some observations to violate the margin for the sake of a better overall model. To track these violations, we use slack variables, represented by the Greek letter epsilon. These variables act like a measuring stick for how much a point breaks the rules. If epsilon is 0, the point lies safely on the correct side of the margin. These are our well-behaved observations. If epsilon is between 0 and 1, the point has crossed the margin, but is still on the correct side of the decision boundary. You can see these points highlighted now, sitting inside the buffer zone. Now that we understand the soft margin, we need a way to control it. In SVM, we do this using a tuning parameter called the C parameter, or the regularization budget. As we slide C from small to large, the margin physically opens up. The budget for misclassifications increases, allowing the model to ignore local noise in favor of a smoother, more stable boundary. When we slide it back, the margin tightens, becoming more rigid and demanding perfect separation. Choosing the right value for C is the heart of training an SVM. It is the balance between a model that is too strict and one that is too flexible. By finding this sweet spot, we create a classifier that truly generalizes to the real world. On the left, we have a small c. This represents a strict model with a narrow margin. It tries to separate the classes perfectly, leading to a low bias but a high risk of overfitting, because it is too sensitive to individual data points. On the right, we have a large c. This is a flexible model with a wider margin. By being more tolerant of violations, we achieve a higher bias but much lower variance, which generally leads to better performance on new data. But the true power of C is best seen as a continuous trade-off. Watch the dynamic plot as we adjust our regularization budget. In this two-dimensional view, the blue cluster is completely surrounded by the orange ring. Now look at the result. What was impossible in 2D is now trivial in 3D. We can slide a flat, two-dimensional plane through this space, perfectly slicing between the two groups. The kernel trick allows us to find linear solutions for nonlinear problems by momentarily stepping into a higher dimensional world. This transformation is what makes support vector machines one of the most versatile tools in the machine learning toolbox. No matter how we rotate a straight line, it is mathematically impossible to separate these two classes. A linear separator simply fails. To solve this, we use the kernel trick. We apply a mathematical mapping to transform our coordinates. In this case, we add a third dimension based on the radius of each point. Watch as the data takes a leap into the third dimension. By lifting the points, the orange ring, which is further from the center, rises high, while the blue center stays low. In our toolkit, two functions stand out for handling nonlinear complexity. But here is the real magic of the kernel trick. While we are visually seeing curves and islands in 2 dimensions, mathematically, we are working in a space of infinite dimensions. The beauty is efficiency. Through these kernel functions, we get the predictive power of a high-dimensional world, without the massive computational cost of actually moving there. By picking the right tool from this toolkit, you can wrap a decision boundary around almost any data pattern imaginable. On the left, we have the polynomial kernel. It creates smooth, sweeping curves by raising the relationship between points to the power of p. This is perfect for data that follows a natural parabolic trend. On the right, we have the most popular choice in modern machine learning, the radial basis function, or RBF kernel. Instead of a single curve, the RBF creates localized islands or loops around clusters of data. Notice the difference in their formulas. The RBF kernel uses a gamma parameter to control how far the influence of a single point reaches. This allows it to handle incredibly complex datasets where classes are scattered in irregular patterns. But how do we handle the real world, where we often have k number of classes? Instead of pairing up, we build one SVM for each class and test it against everything else at once. As seen in our star diagram, each point is compared directly to the center of the rest of the data. This requires fewer models, just one per class, making it faster to compute. We simply choose the class that the model identifies with the highest level of confidence. Whether you choose the exhaustive voting of 1 versus 1, or the streamlined efficiency of 1 versus all, SVMs can scale to solve even the most complex multi-class challenges. Since the core of SVM is binary, we use 2 primary strategies to bridge this gap. The first is 1 versus 1. In this approach, we construct a separate SVM for every possible pair of classes. If we have 5 classes, as shown here by our pentagon, we create a web of classifiers connecting every dot. For any new data point, we run it through all these pairs. Each SVM votes for a winner, and the class with the most frequent votes takes the title. While this creates many models, it often leads to very precise boundaries. The second strategy is one versus all. However, keep in mind the trade-offs. SVMs are not naturally multi-class and can be sensitive to the tuning of parameters like C and gamma. As we look at our key vocabulary one last time, remember the geometry. The hyperplane is our divider. The support vectors are our anchors. The margin is our gap. And the kernel is our expander, allowing us to conquer nonlinear data. At its heart, SVM is simply the quest for the optimal decision boundary. Support vector machines are incredibly effective in high-dimensional spaces and offer unique, robust solutions that are naturally resistant to overfitting. By balancing the margin width with the regularization budget, we create models that don't just memorize data, but truly understand the patterns within it. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the world of support vector machines. If you found these visualizations helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss our next masterclass on machine learning. Keep exploring, keep visualizing, and I will see you in the next video.